All right, today we're going to cover section 5.1, which is over what is probability. Make sure that you have the 5.1 guided notes before we get started, and you will need a calculator again. All right, so first thing, we're going to go over what probability is. So the formula that we're going to use, the probability of an event is equal to the number of favorable outcomes over the number of total outcomes okay, or another easier way to remember it, it's also what you want over the total amount. Okay, so denominator is always the total for whatever problem we're working on. Okay, first example. Okay, so people were asked which sports they prefer between baseball, basketball, football, and soccer. So in this box over here, it says the results of what everybody answered. So we're going to look for probability. Anytime we're doing probability, remember we need the total outcome. So the first thing I'm going to do is find the total people interviewed. So I'm just going to add up all these numbers here. So 50 plus 74 plus 61 plus 33. So that means that the total is 218. So my denominator for these probabilities is going to be 218. So if we look at the first one, what is the probability that the sport chosen was baseball? Okay, if you go back up to the equation, we have probability of an event. So the event is in parentheses because that's what we're finding the probability of. So down here, we're finding the probability the sport is baseball. So I'm going to have probability, and then in parentheses, I'm going to have baseball. So remember, probability, we're going to have a fraction. So probability is 1 over total. So I want baseball. So if I come over here, baseball, there were 50 people. So I'm going to have 50 in the numerator. That's what I want. My denominator is the total. So down here, the total is 218. So 50 over 218 would be the probability. Okay, and then go ahead and write it as a simplified fraction. So if we reduce this fraction, we're going to get 25 over 109. So that would be the probability that somebody chose baseball. Okay, so part B, the probability that they chose soccer. So we're going to have probability of soccer. So soccer goes in parentheses. Okay, so it's still want over total. So we want soccer. So over here, soccer is 33 people over the total, which is 218. Okay, and that fraction cannot be simplified, so we're just going to leave it as 33 over 218. Okay, and the last one, we want football. So I'm going to have probability of football. Okay, so since we want football, if we come over here, 61 people chose football out of the total, which was 218. And again, that can't be reduced, so we're just going to leave it. Okay, so just remember, denominator is always the total. Numerator is what you're looking for or what you want. And then once you get that fraction, go ahead and try to simplify it. Okay, so there are 4 properties of probability. The first property is probability is always less than or equal to 1. It can never be greater than 1 because probability, it's either a fraction or percent. So if we have 1, that's going to be 100%. So nothing can happen more than 100%. So that's why it's always less than or equal to 1. Okay, second thing, it's a decimal fraction, or percent. Okay, all three answers are acceptable. So for example, we could write probability as 1/2, 0.5, or 50%. All three of those mean the exact same thing. And all three, I'll take all three of those answers. Either one's fine. Okay, third thing, probability is never negative. If something's not going to happen, so the probability, if it's not possible, it'll just be 0. It can never be negative. Okay, and the last one, the probability of an event plus the probability of not the event is equal to 1. Okay, so if we, for instance, if we flip a coin, if we want to know the probability that we get heads, and there's only 2 options on a coin, so we'd have the probability of a heads plus probability of not a head. Well, the only other choice besides not a head is a tail, so the probability we get a head or not a head is going to happen 100% of the time because there's only 2 options. Okay. The probability of something not happening is called the complement. Okay, so it's the complement of the main event. So another way to write this is the probability of an event plus, instead of probability of not the event, I'm going to write it as probability prime of the event is equal to 1. So this prime right here, this means complement. Okay, so these 2 equations right here are the exact same. All right, go to the back page of your notes. We're going to do a couple examples. Okay, so we have 14 blue marbles and 11 red marbles in a bag. We're going to find all these different probabilities. So remember, anytime we're doing probability, we always need total, so that's the first thing that I'm going to find. So if we have 14 blue marbles and 11 red, that means we have 25 total marbles in the bag. Doesn't matter what color, just 25 total. Okay, so the first one, we want to know the probability of a blue marble. So we have probability of blue, so blue goes in my parentheses. Remember, probability is want over total. So I want a blue marble. So if I come up here, there are 14 blue marbles. So I have 14 to choose from over total. And there's 25 total marbles. So 14 over 25 would be the probability of a blue. Okay, next one, we want a red marble. So probability of red. Okay, so I want red. There's 11 red marbles, so that goes in my numerator. And then there's 25 total, so 11 over 25. If you want to write these as decimals or percents, that's fine, or you can just leave them as a fraction since that's easiest. Okay, next one, probability of a yellow marble. So probability of yellow. Okay, so I want yellow, but if you come back up here, there's no yellow anywhere in the bag. It's just blue and red. So I have 0 yellow to choose from out of the 25 total, which is just equal to 0. So probability of getting a yellow is 0. And then the last one, probability of a red or a blue. So probability of red or blue. So I'm just going to write R or B. We come back up to the bag, we only have 2 options. We have a blue marble or a red marble. So when we draw a marble out of the bag, it's either going to be red or blue 100% of the time. So this probability would be 1 or 100%. So that's, since that's the only options. Okay. All right, last example. Okay, so this time we're doing probability with a deck of cards. So since a deck has a total of 52 cards, this 52 right here, this is the total. Okay, so for the first question, when it asks how many possible outcomes there are, it's just looking for the total amount. So we just said that 52 is the total, so there would be 52 possible outcomes or total outcomes. Okay, next one, what is the probability of drawing a 5? So I want the probability of a 5. Okay, so if we come back up here, there are 4 of each number. So since I want a 5, there are 4 5s in the deck out of my total, which is 52. So 4 out of 52, which simplifies to 1 out of 13. Okay, so again, I want a 5. If we come back up here, it says that there's 4 of each number in the deck. So since I want a 5, I have 4 of them to choose from in the deck, and then there's 52 total. Okay, what is the probability of drawing a red king? So probability of a red king. Okay, I can go ahead and do my denominator because remember it's the total. We already said the total was 52. Okay, so if we're looking for a king, let's just look at the king part for now. We know that there are 4 of each number in the deck, so we know that there are 4 kings. Okay, but right here it wants it to be a red king. We know that there's only 2 suits that are red. So in the entire deck there are only 2 red kings. So that means that my probability would be 2 out of 52. Okay, the difference here, this one specified color. We know there's only 2 colors in a suit, or in a deck, sorry. And then up here, this one didn't specify any color. Okay, so 2 out of 52 reduces to 1 out of 26. Okay, last one, probability of drawing a 7 or a queen. Okay, so again, my denominator is going to be 52. Okay, so let's just look at the 7 for now. So again, if we come back up here, there's 4 of each number. So we know that there's 4 7s. And then queen, there's also 4 of those. So if we want one or the other, we're looking for 8 total possibilities. So our probability would be 8 out of 52. So 4 7s, 4 queens. We just want one or the other, it doesn't matter which. So we have 8 possible outcomes, or 8 possibilities that we want from this. So it'd be 8 out of 52, which is just 2 out of 13. Okay. All right, that's all the examples for 5.1. So here's your homework assignment. Again, remember, if you have questions or something confused you, make sure you email me and I'll try to help you. All right, we have one more lesson and then your review will be on Monday and then you will quiz over this on Tuesday.